Today's video is about matrix inserts, including from the spiritless, because I have had a few examples recently that I like to share because I notice how different spirited beings are experiencing a certain degree of anxiety or some anxiety attacks. So there are matrix inserts that are there in your reality for the impact they're gonna have on you. And a few of them are really there to create anxiety and make you feel anxious, activate some programming within you. And you might sometimes wonder why some beings are saying certain things. Well, purely you're noticing that they are running a program. They are saying certain things for you to get afraid, to get scared, to worry, or different things like that. And I have a few examples that I'm going to share with you that are more specific about what's been, broadcasted in my reality. So actually these inserts, when you get them, it's actually a great way to tell if someone is spiritless or not, or if someone's actions are really timed to interfere with yours, like your neighbors choosing that exact time that you're gonna need to be in front of your door to start cleaning their windows, or something they could do like the other 23.5 hours available in a day. So these inserts are, of course, especially targeting the reals here. And they are there to increase the degree of engineering present in our reality. It's always going to be about how it is impacting us and our psyche and what kind of programming it might be activating, like social anxiety or money anxiety, money programming. How am I going to make it to the next month or things like that. So I have an example where I've been calling a few times now the same repairman with whom I had really great results the first time he wasn't accessed and did not insert much weirdness from what I can remember now, but it's been a few months already. So because he's quite competent for a spiritless person, I've been calling him a few times, and he's interesting because he can be very competent, but recently he's been also more access to create different kind of weirdness that I didn't really appreciate. So my enthusiasm with him is kind of going down. That's when you repeat things with the spiritless, and you're gonna have different kind of weirdness entering in. So he noticed a leak in one of my radiator, a leak that I hadn't noticed and that I wasn't worrying about it at all. And he told me that I would have to repair, like change completely the radiator, and this kind of work it comes with a cost. For first you have to find someone who is competent enough amongst the different spiritless option that you have around you, and then you have to pay for the radiator and then pay for the service as well. So this story has been going for a few months in my life, and I had found, like, I had scanned for and found a good radiator. If I was to replace the radiator, I wanted it to be a good radiator that I would feel happy about when I look at it. And so I took time to look through the different options. I had found it, but I didn't order the radiator. I also had found, I had posted a demand on the website that I usually use to find spiritless repair options around me. And I had the answer of someone who came, I think, for just a visit. Like he wouldn't do any repair work, but he was kind of introducing himself. So he gave me a few advice. He was okay, but he would also propose prices that maybe I had hoped for something less, and together. So the suggestion and the insert from the first repairman and this second, I remember, created an anxiety episode, because these can be unexpected costs for which you're not always so happy to be paying. But I postponed as long as I was not really feeling it. I didn't really felt pressure to pursue with the steps. And then I think, thanks to my regular practice of yoga nidra and deep relaxation, you can find these tracks on my website. They are made by Olia, and they are great for deprogramming and just opening the consciousness and expanding the mind. I thought about looking for, like recently, this has been going on for months, and I think at least six months, 6 different months already that it's ongoing. And I thought about looking for this epoxy glue, which I try, and it was not thick enough. So then I looked for more of an epoxy kind of like malleable texture that would then solidify. And I had to put 3 different like one layer, it was still leaking. Second layer, it was still leaking. Third layer, it has not been leaking, but I'm not maybe at the end of this experiment, right? But it's just such a good example. So basically this glue and then different texture only costed me like it's 1/10 or 1/20 of what a repair would be really costing. So of course the spiritless are not going to bring these ideas, like they look like they are well-intentioned, looking for solution for you, but sometimes they just are there to trigger your programming and create different states in you. So it's always interesting to look at how it impacts us. And what kind of triggered this video, this kind of spontaneous video today, it's that I was in the woods with my dogs. They are leash free, they are running wild. I have one dog, Shireen, my dog, is always by my side. She's never a problem in the woods. She's like my shadow, and she always comes back when I call her. She's never going too far either. Suna is a different story. Suna is a wild child, and she likes her freedom. She likes to explore and sniff everything, smell. And from time to time, she disappears for 1 to 5 minutes, sometimes more. And sometimes I end up losing her for a little while. And that's when I went today to look in a place where she had previously disappeared, where my other dog kind of escaped in the gardens of this man, and he was spiritless, and I knew it already. Most of the people you meet randomly in your reality are spiritless. And especially in your direct surroundings. So my other dog, Shirin, was going up his garden, and I'm like, wow, this other dog on the run too. So I crossed the high grass to get Shirin, and this man tells me, oh, it's good that she's here and not on the road, because that's another story there. So basically, this person obviously doesn't know that I'm also looking for my other dog, but the programs know and the AI knows, so that's what they are broadcasting in my reality. Well, I knew it was an AI insert and I didn't fall for it, didn't trigger any anxiety. And I had something interesting happening because I'm dry fasting today. And just when Suna disappeared, I did a little round and I was coming back to where I last saw her. And I saw like a clairvoyant insert with a dog with a white pajamas, which he had on today. But I saw this kind of insert, but later I realized that it was an insert and that it was not real, that it was my intuition speaking to me. So I tried to be polite and not, not let this AI insert affect my mood. It doesn't serve anything to be disagreeable with the spiritless. They are clueless beings here present, and it only is not serving us when we are getting moody, depressed, or in a bad mood. And a lot of triggers are meant for us to feel this way, because that's when we ourselves become also triggering for others. So we're blocked, shocked, and so on. So on the outside, these people look well-intentioned, but the way you receive what they are saying to you is always going to tell you that you're dealing with program broadcasting. So just to finish the story, I came back on my foot and kept on saying, asking Suna to come back, and she came back kind of about where she disappeared, but a long while I'd been going on in between this. And I've also learned to ease my anxiety. It's like when a child disappears out of your sight, and it's like running wild out there in the simulation. Another recent insert from a few weeks ago that I had was in my car when I was driving to the woods with my dogs. And sometimes I just turn the radio that I never listened to for a few minutes, right? Sometimes a few minutes is all that you need for a matrix insert to enter your reality and derail, your unfolding of your days. So there I heard the mention of a very addictive reality TV show that I used to watch when I was, a teenager. Maybe it already started when I was a child. I don't remember. It's highly addictive and can still be addictive now, which not many shows can be. So of course it inserts this idea, then I'm gonna check it out. And you have many seasons of that. So I was already aware, yes, I'm not gonna play that role. I went on some Wikipedia pages. I watched a few episodes, but I was feeling I was drifting away, and I was starting to think about it in the morning because this is a highly triggering show. So it triggers your deepest wound of betrayals, things being not fair. It's highly manipulative with a highly manipulative, it's emotionally manipulating the audience, and also the candidates are manipulated themselves under mind control. There are lots of inserts as well that are there to influence them while they are also playing their game. So reality living game within many different reality living games. Plus, I'm now always looking, with my perspectives, are these candidates real? Is there fire creation beings here and there? Most of them are spiritless. Most of them are recruited through a very long process of casting, where they are really studied for the influences of mind control and also to scan for, candidates who would encourage breaking the false narratives present. So on social media of these candidates, you always gonna find a ton of programming. Even the brighter ones are highly programmed, and some fire creation beings are allowed to win or to be having some spotlight over them, but it's only because they have very thick programming that with a very little chance to break. Britney Spears is is an example that maybe they have learned their lessons with her, because she has been harder to contain than generally these candidates that we see out there. And what was interesting with that shows was that I was remembering, it was seasons I already seen when I was younger. So I was also remembering how it was making me feel back then. And usually I was able to look at this quite neutral, but some things would still trigger some programming and some things. And I was feeling the programming being triggered by the distraction and this false reality living field. That it was not good for my mental health. Even if it was not, I was not binge watching for hours in the day. I was watching 1 or 2 episodes here and there, but still that was already too much, and I could already feel the harmful effect. I could feel that I was thinking about the triggering the next day and the next morning. So it was occupying my mental space, and then it's not open for anything else, which is exactly the aim of all these programs. It was a very intense time. So just at the end of the eclipse time, which was very revealing for me, with a few roads separating, and it's the effects are still up to these days, with more gaps and things like that to acknowledge and take in consideration. And it was just before a small gathering that I was organizing here, which has a deep healing potential and power. So it was also there to target me and the level of consciousness I would start this gathering with. And I was also finishing a 10-day juice fast with also whole fruits, whole solid fruits, but nothing else. And I mean, just fruits, not the veggie fruits. For all of these triggers, you can really find where does it come from, how did it start, how was it inserted. For example, with the radio, it comes from, of course, mass media. From the spiritless, it comes from their programming and how they are being accessed or triggered to say certain things to us. So it's always important to go back to, who has been creating that anxiety. Where does that come from? And you will also find different inserts that are there to cause division amongst the reals, and especially with you and your strongest allies. Now, triggers from spirited beings are often more complex to navigate. They can be indirect, coming from the side. You know, it's not just a direct whole body triggers triggering you directly, but you will feel that it triggers your programming. You can feel that you feel blocked, you feel moody, you feel depressed, and you feel like your joy is being annihilated by this controlling energy around you. It's going to be more powerful if it comes from a spirited being. Now, a few words on deprogramming. We notice we are deprogramming when we do things in a different order, when we no longer do certain things, where we no longer see certain people, where it becomes easier to do some of the 3D things we have to do, like you don't postpone it as much, not only day after day, but hour after hour, right? You can start way early. You don't have to do all these things to be able to start. You can start that, get it done, and then deal with the other things in your reality. Deprogramming is also about quitting being self-destructive and self-destructive behaviors, or things that are just not good, like addictive behaviors, like stopping to watch these highly addictive shows, which I did. And how I did it was already first a decision. I went on Wikipedia looking at the winners, then I studied them. And I also listened to a few interviews where I could mainly hear programming and, what the production was looking for is people who can speak well, make appear this false reality very real for the reals. That's what it's for. So it didn't stay long with me. And I already don't miss it. I've been deprogrammed the way it can hook into me, because I'm seeing through all the false reality living fields. So quitting doing addictive things, of self-destructive things, learning to slow down also from doing, for example, now I can, Suna is lying down in the sun, my dog. I can easily stop for a few minutes, go lie down with her a few times, back and forth, back and forth. And Olia has been someone who's been also sharing with me about her passion for deep relaxation and this ability to stop all other things, to do the most important thing is to slow down and take a moment. And we see also that we are deprogramming when we're becoming better at self-care and at self-nurture. You also see when you think about new solutions, for example, I wanted a fence in a part of my garden to separate two parts, but I have this fence in my buy list for a long time already, and it's not a priority to buy this fence. So suddenly they thought that I could mark the delimitation another way for the moment with something that I already had, and that would place a boundary, just meaning that the two gardens are separate and separate spaces that can or cannot be accessed as well. Deprogramming is also about leaving aside false narratives and false reality living fields, leaving them, they collapse from your reality. Deprogramming can be consulting some deprogramming material that is coded and multi-layered. Now you will sometimes find some programming, but the overall effect, if it's positive, you will also feel it. Now you can also find this addictive component on things that we read online. I remember it was very difficult for me not to read a blog, like read all the articles back then a few years ago. It was highly addictive, but it wasn't really serving me, and I was already feeling it. So I think I did scan and not read everything. And when you feel this addiction, that's when it's going to tell you that you've been kind of hooked through one of the many ways of the matrix here, and kind of cornered in your own programming. And you're losing time while you're doing this, and it's your energy and your focus as well. Yoga Nidra, deep relaxation, is another great tool to speed up deprogramming, to become more clear, to unroot the seeds that are put there in our consciousness. Some are very deep-seated. So deprogramming is multi-layered. It is about navigating the labyrinths of our own minds, which have been heavily programmed through MK Ultra methods. It's valid for all the reals, and the more you see reality, the more as it is, not as it pretends to be, the more you will see how all the reals are MK Ultra through the subliminal they associate with on their social media, you know, the symbology present around them, you know, what kind of things they do, how they represent themselves, and all these things. So deprogramming is endless, it's ongoing, you know, it's a process. And it has no end. I've been gifted with seeing the wires of my programming. And there was a lot of work, I can tell you that. It looked like its own little matrix. And recently the last year maybe, I've seen different reels around me being accessed and reprogrammed. So, for example, a friend of mine, I was hoping for the best when she separated from her handler partner. It was a good news. But then I've been saddened to notice that, well, I knew she would end up with other handlers around her as roommates. And when I spoke with her, she didn't seem to discern that and leave behind completely these controlling energies taking the lesson. So it was saddening to notice that she's been actually accessed and reprogrammed, and she was the most triggering that I've seen her up to this day. So reprogramming and reaccessing can happen if you let the engineering and the handling, you know, too close to your field and your reality. We notice we are deprogramming too when we stop assisting our handlers who are used repetitively negatively in our lives. And when we need less their help, you know, handlers are disguising their control method by pretending they are helping us. So when we can start doing all the things that feel heavy, that are often 3D things that we need to be managing and handling if we want to create and manifest the reality we want to be living in. So deprogramming is an extraction process of everything that isn't really us. And the system is often going to test you right back, test your boundaries. You can also notice that you create less in negative creation, for example, the more you are deprogramming, because you are more aware, more present with your thoughts. And you also use your thoughts for positive creations. You also say no to a lot of matrix options, matrix traps. You don't give them your energy, your attention, your focus. Even sometimes if it can feel empty and scary due to confrontational. Deprogramming is also about rising in awareness about all the low frequency programs out there. You know, addictive shows being one of them, but you also find being triggered in your guilt, in your shame, in your low self-esteem. And when you are deprogramming, you generally keep what is true in your reality, so some true friends, and you end up meeting here and there an ally or two who can make you cry because of who they are walking to be here. And you can feel this is a very genuine bond seated in something greater. Now, anxiety triggered can lead you to being triggered in your food patterns, for example. In deprogramming, you will also feel and see and witness that you have a better relationship to food. and that you're getting better at self-care and self-nurture as well, and your ability to slow down in general, be less in an emergency state, which is, you know, part of the MK Ultra programs. That's why we're used to do all the time. This is also a trauma response. When you deprogram, you're also less and less sensitive to external authority programming, and you're getting better at recognizing and eliminating destructive thoughts, and, you know, keeping on learning to choose more positive and elevating ones. You also notice that you're gentler and kinder towards yourself in how you think about yourself, others, and reality in general. Real deprogramming is about going further than the surface layers, which are encouraged by mainstream psychology, you know, working on beliefs, and they call them beliefs. They don't call it deprogramming. They don't call them programs, right? And that's how you turn in circles, sometimes for years. And many reels are only focused with these surface layers of healing and invested in really false healing, false spirituality. That's all you find with the New Age, and so on. Because you can only go and address deeper programming when you start the cleaning work, and when you have addressed the more basic and kind of cover programming as well. You notice you are deprogramming when you are living states of cognitive dissonance about what's present around you in your reality. For example, it took me a while to come to terms with seeing, sensing, seeing, witnessing that a being that I really, really loved had walked out. So you can be in cognitive dissonance about that. You have a lot of things that are possible out here, and it's very confusing when you still have the body avatar in front of you, but the being has walked out. So you can be in cognitive dissonance about that and many different other things in your reality. And as I stated in a previous video, we are always in a kind of state of cognitive dissonance about some things in our lives. We think our handlers are our friends or mentors. We are duped by the surface logic that handlers come and present to us in our reality, and different kind of things. They are, I mean, breaking free from cognitive dissonance also comes up with grieving, or that cannot be, can no longer be, or was never, and we were perceiving things in a different way due to mind control aspect, deflection, false realities also that are projected and reinforced by other reals around us, plus all the structures, you know, the matrix structure, the broadcasting, not only on in media, but also just around us with the spiritless and so on. So when we are deprogramming, we also project less and are deflecting less energy. You can actually see it when you look at the gaze of someone, if there is a strong amount of deflection and projection in the gaze. And you can, as me, keep on commanding your reality for everything to be revealed in the truth that it is around you. It's very powerful as an intent. It just the best revealer of what is unconscious around us. And the more you do that, the more you're that being also who can reveal a lot of unconscious around you. And that's, you know, we just by being, not by being controlling in the reality of other people, which is the best kind of healing, when just by the presence of someone you can gently scan your own unconscious. And that's why allies are so wonderful here, and that together we can create this soft, gentle healing space for each other, where it doesn't have to be triggering, but it's just a childlike exploration out of curiosity. And, you know, doing the work is much gentler on these terms.